World War III has started. I will go over the details here at the American News Network, streaming live on Facebook, major news network on Roku, coming to Apple TV and Amazon. Here we go. Sweden is on the defense. They have activated everything they have. They've been neutral for so long. Are they going to go to war? Well, they're going to be attacked. Why are they going to be attacked? They're going to be attacked because they publicly burned the Quran. Now, before we take this any further, I'm going to tell you as a Christian, you burn the Bible in front of me, you better protect yourself too. You burn my flag, you better protect yourself as well. Why are they doing that over in Sweden? I'm going to tell you something from what the Ayatollahs had said in Sweden. You can listen up. You're going to go to war, or you can put that guy's head on a stake and they will avoid going to war with you. But it's called Sharia law, and you got a lot of Arabs and Muslims in your country. I think you're at 20% now. The enemy will get you from within. You shouldn't disrespect people like that. You really shouldn't. As far as everybody saying that they're for Israel, you don't know the history of Muslims and Christians, and believe it or not, at one time we were working together against the Jews. You should study the Crusades. And then they even took shelter with them for a while because we blamed them for the death and murder of Jesus Christ, and that was going on pretty heavy. So, part two, the Quran, is it going to set stuff off over there? Yes, it is. Now, Belarus is ready to go to war with NATO, and NATO and the EU, I'm going to tell you, they're gone. Why do I know they're gone? Here's my conclusive proof that the media is not telling you. We had Turkey attack Syria. Guess what they did that with? F-16s. Weren't they a part of NATO? I think they were. Then we have Egypt with our billions of dollars in Saudi Arabia, and they're all going to blink away from us in the blink of an eye, putting faith over some country they're not a part of. Now, I'll tell you, the forces here in the United States, we don't like NATO or the EU. In fact, I remember the days when we'd have these trinket, French-talking little powder puffs come onto our boat, onto our ship, trying to tell us what to do, keeping us and us trying to keep stuff confidential from them. We've never liked you. And I speak for everybody that's in the service in the United States of America. We think all you people suck, and you shouldn't tell us what to do, period. I don't want to lose one single soldier, one child of the United States to this BS going over there, and that's all it is a bunch of BS malarkey. Okay, that's two. Belarus is lined up with nukes. It'll take them 5 minutes to take over Estonia and all the Baltic states. You watch as they crumble. You watch. I'm only giving you the truth like no one else is. I guess Ursula's going to lie to you on these EU sanctions. They're going zero nowhere fast. You don't have any gas. They're cutting off your food. That's what the Suez Canal is. What do I mean by that, Chris? Well, their shipping went from $500 a container to $2,500 a container in the blink of an eye. That's what I mean by that, Chris. Then their gas went up. Then their basmati rice went up. You see, this is what controls the trade going into Europe. So Europe's going to scramble, and they're thinking, do we hold on to America? Can we make it until Trump gets into office? And we're saying in America, can we make it until Trump gets into office? Okay, and guess what this guy Jack Wagon Joe wants to do today? He wants to con all of us into caring about the Ukraine when Panama City, Florida, was just destroyed by 21 tornadoes, but he has the audacity and gall to talk to us as if we give a rat's ass about the Ukraine. He wants us to put all these homeless illegal aliens inside of homes, our homes, for 2 years free room and board, while our United States veterans are sleeping outside in tents. If you haven't figured out that they're not on our side, please let this be a wake-up call. We are dealing with a complete uniparty here, okay? And what I'm showing behind you, this is how that uniparty, this is Los Angeles, this is a city worker, and they're spraying water on a homeless person. And now, since it was videotaped, they've got to have their little, oh, what do we do about it? Because they're finding out that we're inherently evil all the way to the top. You see, Jack Wagon Joe is a lot like Nixon because he's been in office since Nixon. And back in 1973, we created the War Powers Resolution, the War Powers Act. And we created it because Nixon was getting out of control and he was bombing and killing all the Asians, and you weren't finding out about it. Oh, yeah, ask citizens of Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. They'll tell you what jerk-offs they thought the United States was. So they got the War Powers Act to ban all of the heinous acts that we were doing to Asians. Flash forward to today, the new Asians are called Muslims and Arabs. There you go, because you got to pick the president and who they hate. And basically, you should have understood when Jackwagon Joe is making fun of basically people at 7-Eleven, talking to them like this and saying jokes like this, that it was a matter of time before he would steal your camel too, my friend. And now you have no camel. And he wants to say, it was a successful attack on Yemen as we blew up 61 air bases and had minimum casualties, so we say. We don't even know how many U.S. troops have died. We've been ordered out of Iraq, all of our troops. That's happening now. And then Turkey's hitting us with F-16s in Syria and Kurdish people of Christian faith. Did you know that? So stop pointing the finger saying we're so good when actually, according to the world, we're starting to represent Satan. What do I mean by that? Well, you didn't see the demons and the goblins at the Grammys and the Emmys or whatever they want to call that stuff that's fallen off the face of the planet that no parents let their kids watch? Well, remember how I said the other day that I believed that those earthquakes off the coast in Japan could have been underwater nuclear devices? Well, I think I was right, and the first person to blast out the story that day it happened, and guess what? Now we're hearing it from other places. But as you could see, North Korea then hit this coast right here in Japan, and that's my thought. These were all the tsunamis where they created them through nuclear things and devices. Everybody's going to have their head in the sand on as to what is actually happening, especially here in the United States. But it's worldwide news. That's ABC following me 3 or 4 days behind. Here's Gravitas and Vion News also following me a few days behind. Yes, I'm right. What happened was, flash, Putin gave Kim Jong-il, little Kim of North Korea, underwater nuclear packages with China so that they could blow up Japan, Taiwan, and the United States of America. News flash. How about them apples? That's a reality check of what's going on today underwater for reals, y'all. Okay, so that's what's happening in that little area there of the world. Are we going into war? Well, don't ask NATO and the UN. They've only deployed and activated 90,000 to 150,000 troops across Europe today. I would imagine that would be spectacular news that should be hitting all of Americans from stem to stern, all the way down to the balls, so that it's time to grab them, because pretty soon if you bend over, you're going to have to kiss something goodbye if you don't stand up for Trump in America today, America. Jackwagon Joe is taking us into World War III. What do I mean by that? Well, we got Iran hitting Pakistan. They're retaliating. We're going to try to use that to our advantage, and I imagine we're going to hit Iran and blame that on Pakistan. Those are just my spins on it, but, that's something that I believe Jackwagon Joe would do, so you got to get into the mind of a guy that's evil. See, Lloyd Austin's been out since December 22nd, and if you count the weeks, the fake news wants to tell us he's been out for 2 weeks, but actually it's 28 days as of today, getting out of the hospital. This affirmative action hire, he's not calling the shots. They're being completely called by Jackwagon Joe, period. You heard it himself, and he's proving it by calling the shots as he's eating ice cream and buying us our coffee. This guy right here is just a puppet. He's a puppet from South Park. I said that time and time again. He was my chef, because if you look at the ribbons on his chest, he didn't do crap to get where he's at. And everybody in the service knows that. So I'm telling you that. We are defenseless. You don't know what the truth is. That's a yes man. And you know what? He's so stressed out, he's dying. He was vomiting out of his mouth for the last 2 weeks with tubes coming out of his stomach from stress caused by working for a liar. Poor man. Imagine the stress on a human being when you actually gave a crap for your country, but you go to work for somebody that you know is evil. It would probably drive me into the hospital too, Lloyd. When you get to feeling better, we'll fry up some catfish and have a beer and talk about things. But you know what? I'm so sorry that America has put you through this charade show and that you try to stand and act like that you like that Ku Klux Klan cracker who I know you can't stand. We can't stand him either, Chef Lloyd. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Sweden. You better prepare for war. And the countries are going into the sky. And we've had our fifth country also just yesterday attempt to land on the moon. It fell over and tumbled. But yes, Japan has gone into the sky. This is footage of them attempting. Did you hear about that? Did that make news? So we've had India and Japan landing space missions. And this one that you see behind me, it failed on its landing attempt, but they said they got a lot of collected data so that they would know how to land in the future. And when the Japanese are doing this, keep in mind in another 10 years, Transformers are actually going to be robots in disguise. Okay, so Turkey, I wouldn't have believed this, but understand this is my proof of NATO and the EU being completely dissolved. Again, we can't hear about this on news from the United States, but because we don't get real news. But the Turkish military targeted Kurdish air bases in the West, and they targeted our posts, and it's been leaked now on other news sources. Now, I'll remind you, those are U.S. F-16s that have gone out. Now, they have, blood is thicker than water. So what we're seeing here is a unification of the Shiites and the Sunnis under Hezbollah. And MBS, the only reason why he's tolerating this from us is because Yemen has been his enemy as well. So Uncle Sam under our coin has been taking care of his enemy. And then by tandem, who do you hate but your enemies? If you have the same enemies, you're friends. And so Saudi and Israel share Yemen and Iran as an enemy. Now, this whole Pakistan thing, so it was Iranian people from their own country that hate their government, and they did some things in Iran. They escaped into Pakistan, and as they escaped into Pakistan, they were bombed there. They didn't have the right to hit the people of Pakistan. I'll be talking to my brothers and friends out there. If some of you can comment below, or just don't give yourselves up, but we need to know how you're doing in Pakistan. I understand that Pakistan's in a situation just like we are here in the United States, meaning their country's been stolen by a puppet president. They had Imran Khan, now they got a puppet. We had Donald Trump, now we got a puppet. His name's Jack Wagon Joe, and this is what he does worldwide behind me. All I'm saying is death and destruction, and this is building back better. Worldwide Bidenomics at its finest, and that is it. When you see smoke in the air, that's the success of Bidenomics. Okay, now they're not going to tell us that the National Institute of Health was under cyber attack or that they share or give parts of their money, to Big Pharma. But there is a candidate that's actually exposing this, and I don't mean Bernie Sanders, I mean RFK. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because RFK exposes Big Pharma in connection with Vanguard and BlackRock. Now, these are the same institutions that killed JFK and RFK. And so he has a vested interest in wanting to disseminate them. They are tied in to the big monster. You're never going to hear this story on big media because they own Fox. They own all these other affiliates. They're not going to tell you about the evil. So I'm going to let RFK tell it to you. And since he's exposing it, what other candidate is exposing that? And keep in mind, our war in Afghanistan was purely for Big Pharma so that we could grow opium. Think about it. And it's the damn state flower for the state of California, but we literally blew people up for 20 years for nothing and then let them drop off of our airplanes to die and then literally handed them over to the Taliban. If you're not sick of the crap we're causing, what ostrich are you?
They can make a profit, so the last thing they want to do is find problems with it.
So that explains in the FDA and the NIH. The amount of lying done to me by the medical and pharmaceutical establishments in the last few years has completely changed my view about whether or not they will tell me anything that is true.
NIH is a $42 billion budget. It used to do science. Now it basically, a lot of what it does is developing new drugs for the pharmaceutical industry, which it gives to them essentially for free in many cases. It's a terrible arrangement. NIH itself gets royalties. They can take about half of the royalties on something like the Moderna vaccine. They own half of the royalties, so they'll get billions and billions of dollars. Not only that, but there's 6 individuals who work for NIH who were Anthony Fauci's deputies, who each got margin rights for the patents, so they own royalties. It's pretty astonishing because these are the regulators that are supposed to be looking for problems with these drugs before they give them to us to protect us. If this drug does well, they're going to pay for their boat, they're going to pay for their children's education, and as long as that drug is being sold to people, they can make a profit. So the last thing they want to do is find problems with it.
So that explains the moral corruption in the FDA and the NIH and the pharmaceutical companies, namely money. How do you explain the New York Times and the Washington Post? Are they getting money from Big Pharma?
The pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest advertisers now. I think it was on $9.6 billion in advertising. The reporters themselves would deny that there's any kind of censorship or any kind of editorial, prodding, and they will say science is what CDC says it is. And I say to them, journalists are supposed to maintain a posture of fear, skepticism toward government officials. They're now doing the opposite. They have become propagandists for the government. Now, why is that happening? You can't just say they're being bought off by pharmaceutical companies.
That's why I asked.
Part of that dynamic is a lot of influence by the intelligence agencies throughout the press, the largest funder today of journalism around the world. Mainly funded through USAID, and they spend about $10 billion a year funding journalism around the world.
You see what I'm fighting? I'm fighting $10 billion a year from the CIA and the FBI, and you know what? Now is not the time for Vivek Ramaswamy, who was a drug company CEO. No, he's a child, and his parents, not both of them are citizens. Maybe he could be a White House correspondent, and I commend him for his efforts. Nikki Haley, she's a traitor. You might as well run for president or vice president under Hillary Clinton as this time comes around. But as you see her acne pochmarked face, she can't lead 50 people. That's that. She's not a leader by any means at all. I don't have the time for egos. Even if Ron DeSantis, keep your butt down in Florida, you're doing a good job. I want to see my country saved. What about you? This man's family was murdered by the CIA, the FBI. His uncle, John Kennedy, was one of our best presidents ever. We don't know the truth about him, just like we don't know the truth about 9/11. But there are some families that have been affected more than others. Trump is now the new Al Capone, been arrested over 90 times, an outright felon, but we know he's a good man. Kennedy's family's been murdered and killed by our own government, but we know he's a good man. Thing is, these are men. They're not children. They've got a lifetime of experience. We can't screw around anymore. I don't care what the RNC says. You know why? My ratings are higher than the RNC and the DNC. That says a lot. Trump, I want you to work with Kennedy. I want us to drain the crap out of this swamp and pull the plug. You need to exonerate and free Julian Assange and Snowden. In fact, you need to turn them into prosecutors so that they can prosecute every single cutback and handout and person that has helped destroy our country. Hand out hemp rope gravity and start addressing people that have caused treason. Now, I can tell you Jack Wagon Joe's obviously been discovered for bribery and pulling out the way he did in Afghanistan, and you too, General Miley, committed treason on the people of the United States of America. Trump said it, but we know it. We, the people of the United States, know it. We don't care what your damn story is. You can read the thousands of comments below, Miley, aiding and assisting the enemy is treason. You aided and assisted 80 to $85 billion in 20 years of tax payment from the United States government and the citizens of the United States of America. Okay? We have people now going out representing the Secretary of Defense and everybody else, and we're making Anthony Blinken do it. Why is that? There is a simple common denominator for why Anthony Blinken is doing the job of President Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin today. You know what that reason is? He's not a senior citizen that's out of shape or too old. We need people that are serving this country that actually can physically serve this country, that are ready, willing, and able, and mentally cognitive, and have that ability. We do not need some affirmative action type of stuff. Speaking of affirmative action, do you know what affirmative action hires look like? Here's one behind me. She'd be perfect for a Walmart, maybe. Again, charismatic factor, not there. Third, okay? I mean, listen, she couldn't lead the country like Megyn Kelly, and I'll tell you that. This woman has no ability to command people. She's a sellout phony, and she looks like a wimp. You can't have a wimp leader when you're about to fight the Muslim empire. That's a fact. Nor do they respect women. They respect them so much they don't let them drive or have bank accounts. Now, you'd think that there are women that are good for that, but Hillary Clinton killed Gaddafi, who was, guess what? Giving women the right to drive throughout all North Africa, and because we owed the money with France on the gold standard, we murdered them. That's right, you can ask Christopher Stevens about that. Wait a second, where is he? Oh, what did you do with him, Hillary? Oh, you mean you let them burn him to death and parade his body throughout the town? Okay. If we only kept up with the evil these people do, you'd not let them see the light of day. But I want to remind you that Epstein Island, okay, is right next to James Biden Island, okay, Joe Biden's brother. And you really should call it Joe Biden's Island. The fact that the media doesn't proves again that the CIA and FBI are working together in tandem to not tell you the truth. So Comer, Laura Ingraham, everybody exposed how all these financial business dealings with his brother are really just laundering money to himself, who was a nightclub owner, James Biden. So the nightclub now is the island of James Biden, right next to the island of Jeffrey Epstein. Dig the hole, follow the money. And you know what? Maui's just 2.0. There's DEWs, electrical weapons that were used there, just like you're seeing the same type of stuff that's happening in Gaza. Maui was a land grab for pedophiles, in my opinion. There, I said it. It's not a conspiracy theory because there's just too many pedophiles per capita hanging out there. Same thing I could say with Gaza. You want to tell me that it's somehow Israel's rights when we placed the people there after World War II? You know, all you have to do if you're really a biblical scholar is understand that the Canaanites in the land of Canaan was the people of the Philistines, and the Philistines and all those people are modern-day Palestinians. Cut it out. Hate breeds hate, but you know, if you brainwash yourself into stupid, you're going to follow Joe Biden over a cliff, and I'm not going to let our kids do that. If we're going to die for anything, it's going to be for God and country. And if there's a war that we need to fight, it's at our border. And if there's a prayer you need to give, it's for everybody that's in uniform that's facing a war that they really shouldn't be fighting. We don't need to be fighting these wars that we're fighting. And it's all the result of corruption. And it's all the result of a government that's just out of creative ideas to make money. Okay, so Sweden is preparing for war. Turkey hit Syria. NIH had a cyber attack. The U.S. is wondering if we're going to side with Pakistan, but then again, it brings up India. And it's all these things are telling me that now's the time we need a real true criminal, and we got one, and his name is Trump Capone. Trump, could you tell me something about it?
Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fight me, I consider it a great badge of honor. Do you know I've been indicted more than Al Capone? Did you ever hear Al Capone? probably the greatest mobster of them all, if he had dinner with this very handsome guy in the brown shirt, nice shirt, if he had dinner with him, if you smiled the wrong way at Al Capone when you had dinner, he would have you killed probably within 20 minutes after the dinner. He got indicted less than me. And they indicted me, for, I said the election was rigged. I said the numbers. Well, let me tell you something. From 2016, we still have Democrats there. By the way, do you see the way they're backing off now? No. I thought it was wonderful. They don't want any part of it. The whole system is rigged, and we're going to change it because we have to go back. So when I get indicted, I'm actually being indicted. If you think about it, I'm being indicted for you. Because never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. I won't let it happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. And
they're messing with our grandpa, America. And I am really just about sick of it. Now, this is Eagle Pass in Texas. This is under the Biden administration. This would never be happening underneath Orange Man Good with Watermelon Balls, the grandfather of you and I, the man that actually cared about me and you. Biden doesn't care about the world. Look at this. It's freezing weather down there. He's made promises to people. Promises failed right from the get-go. He promised you to get here to a country that doesn't want you. Now he's let you scatter the streets of Chicago and New York so much that he had to fill all the places up to where our kids don't have schools to go to. Elon Musk told you the truth. They've run out of public spacing. They've even changed their building codes to put illegal aliens in vacant buildings. Wish they'd do that for us, right? Even for our veterans. Next, just like Elon Musk says, and I thank you for Starlink and helping me out too, they're going to be after our homes. Now, if you doubt that, Biden's appointing this another black affirmative action guy judge that is studied Stalin, and he wants to basically use the government to seize all of our houses. We are going to be in a Marxist society, and we are now back. Basically, we're where the USSR used to be, and we've let this one guy completely turn our country around, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to say it in a nutshell so you understand it. Trump should be our president. And there's three branches of government, okay? There's the legislative, executive, and judicial. And Trump was the executive. The legislative branch conspired together to steal the presidency, and they know it. What do I mean? I mean, all the senators and congressmen, a majority of them, conspired to steal our president so that they could get away with laundromat business. And it is well known even right now, okay, that Zelensky just sold the country of Ukraine out to BlackRock as a business deal. So if you're in the Ukraine, I want you to understand, and that's why RFK is breaking them wide open, because all that is the FBI and the CIA own you. Meaning, okay, that's where they're going to do bioweapons and everything else, and we got to stop this as a country. And if RFK and Bernie Sanders and Trump are the only people talking about it, fine. I want you to know that when I was bringing up Bernie Sanders stopping the war, even though financially they do not see the same, they see eye to eye as far as peace. And America wanted peace because we were wanting Sanders versus Trump, and it was stolen by Clinton. So I feel that his words should be heard, and they mimic the words of Trump, and that's world peace. And we don't have to basically destroy the world to keep peace. So this is just making a very lonely old man happy. And he lost his good son. Now his drug addict son, he's going to give him a pardon. Don't listen to the Hunter Biden story of anything. His dad's the president. He's got a presidential pardon. Don't spend any more time on it. Spend time on our border and spend time on putting the true president of the United States back in office, who's Donald Trump. We can't continue with this. I want you to know the judge threatened to arrest Trump again just because he went to the funeral. And I'm not kidding you. So while he was at the funeral, he was ordered not to. This is not only a witch hunt, this is a weaponized judicial system that needs to be completely revamped. I'm in for firing every judge, starting over fresh, firing every legislative person, and starting over fresh, because you're all guilty of conspiring to keep in a president that's guilty of treason, a president that's talking about funding the Ukraine right now when Panama City needs money, and Lahaina, Hawaii. You haven't touched it, but you want to give more money to Iran with John Kerry, and the word's out on Kerry. That's why he retired. He's a criminal. Joe Biden's a criminal, and they are terrorists, and we in America know it. You terrified the Trumps. What if I said, you could have put some poison in the salt that this lady used when you invaded their house, and she was the only victim that fell from that poisoning from when you invaded the Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate? You ever think about that? She died. She died young. She got ill. Don't you remember? FBI, CIA went in there, and I was thinking, what kind of poisons are those creepy bastards leaving around the Trump's facilities? So I'm going to blame this death on them too. Like I told you, Trump, watch what you touch. Who's with me on this? How dare you violate our Constitution and go into our president's home and violate the Constitution and use it like toilet paper? Because I tell you something, was this a natural death or a murder? A murder, just like RFK and JFK faced. I'm going to tell that and say that just in case this gets to Barron Trump, so that you can think about these things as you grow older. And you think about these things. Because RFK has been thinking about these things. And this morning, I also want you to know that Zelensky blew up Putin's hometown. So now it's a ticking time bomb. And he did that right before he sold the country, okay, to BlackRock. Now, again, Kennedy is the only person talking about this, and they're keeping Trump in so much of a scandal that he can't even talk about real politics. He has to talk about his own case instead of what's going on right now, and that's a disservice to world peace. So right now, here we go, and France has admitted they're profiting off of selling stuff, and we only have one candidate. So this is either going to be the Democrat candidate for president, because they have no other contenders. If he's going to run as an independent, again, I'm going to say, and this is my show, I can say it, I think we got a lot of great candidates. Kari Lake's going to be a senator. We're going to need her as a senator. I think that even Kristi Noem is needed in the state of South Dakota, who would be my personal top pick if we, had to go with it. Why? Because she was the only person not fooled by China or the China virus when everyone else was. And because her state has the highest unemployment, and the way she runs things is fearless, and she rides a horse, shoots a gun, and is about as an American woman as you can have. And so everybody else I question as far as their abilities and as far as where they come from. And I think a lot of them are straight on out wusses, and she's anything but that. So as a woman, she's about the most not only strikingly beautiful woman we have as a governor, but she's definitely a leader. And we need leaders that have not been fooled. So that would be my top pick right there. As far as for Trump, it'd either be Kristi Noem. I would like to see, again, Kari Lake stay in the Senate where she could do some damage. And then I would love it if Trump and Kennedy could effectively drain the swamp in a tag team tandem together. It's not the time for these ego young men like Vivek or like DeSantis and people that have not really proven themselves. It's the time to prove ourselves. So I don't care what you say or if you disagree. America's got to be great again. And every time we're about to be great, whether it was Kennedy back in the day or Martin Luther King, we have had an evil organization take us down. And we got to take that $10 billion away from them, because they will constantly start wars with our friends and families that exist in Iran, Pakistan, India, China, Europe. It doesn't matter where you pick, South Africa, Colombia. Our reach is far, and the reach for terrorism seems to be worldwide. And we got to stop dealing with China at all costs because he's running a dictatorship. And if we have a leader that runs with the dictator, well, obviously, then that points the finger that we must be run with the dictator and by a dictator ourselves. So again, to let you know, Sweden, you're going to have a war, and I suggest you oust the person that burned the Quran, or you're going to be dealing with it. Belarus is ready to attack. They have been given nukes by Putin, so all your foot soldiers are relatively useless. Remember that. Estonia, Latvia, all those countries can be gone in a matter of minutes. There's no foot soldiers that are going to help you with the Russian army. You're going to all die within 5 to 10 minutes. Remember, Turkey's pulled away from NATO. They hit Syria, so don't go talking NATO as if it exists. It used to be you attack one of us, you attack us all. We'll tell that to Turkey that just hit Syria, where there's also U.S. troops on the ground. You want to fact check me on all this crap because it's true and it's happening today. Okay, and Saudi, are they going to choose Islam over NATO? Is Egypt? Is Turkey? Yes. Why don't you watch El Cid? Why don't you study history? Okay? And go out, ride in Trump Capone, know that he's going to win, know that Nikki Haley is going to lose her own state and Ron DeSantis. So why are we watching a circus between those people that don't have, they don't have a chance in the world to become president of the United States unless there's some off-the-wall assassination attempt. So even having them out there do that made Vivek, Ron, and Haley culprits that could be people to take out Trump in my book. And when you see Haley and even Vivek and everybody else being questionable as far as on their finances, Secret Service, you need to beef up the service on my orange man hardcore. That's what I'm telling you. So Putin's town has been bombed. Now I'm going to talk about something about the Israeli war and how journalism is truly on the side of Israel only and the Democrats. When Jamal Khashoggi, who only wrote 3 stories for the New York Times, was killed by the King of Saudi Arabia, oh, they cried about it, didn't they? First of all, he was born in Saudi Arabia. So if you talk bad about your king, he deserves to kill your ass. That's just the way it goes. Second, us going to the bat for that little snot cost us $1.25 gasoline. How's that? So I think, guess what? Somebody chopped him up and put him in a suitcase, and it cost us all the energy relationships we wanted to do. He went in there with the New York Times and talked big and got a fist bump and walked out. You don't question kings. He's not an elected official, you bozos. That's the thing with the media you don't get. You can't dirt talk MBS or the King of Saudi Arabia thinking they're going to do something about it. The only thing they're going to do is tell their citizens to go out and put you in a suitcase after they chop you up. And there ain't crap we can do about it, and Jamal Khashoggi's the proof. Now, why do I think all of it is a load of BS? Because 71 international journalists have been murdered in Palestine, and the world says nothing about it, period. I'm going to repeat this. 71 world international journalists have been murdered in Palestine, saying news media with their camera crews, and nothing's been done or said about it. Who owns the media? So, again, when I had this RFK talking about that $10 billion fund that somehow gets slid in, when I talk about how the Ukraine was just sold, okay? Just sold to BlackRock. And then France admits that they're making money off the war. So just today, and this is making news everywhere else, Biden's bringing congressional leaders into the White House today, okay, so that he can ask them for more money for the Ukraine. Let this sink in. He's not asking for the people of Panama City Beach, Florida for a dime. No, sir, no, ma'am. He does not care about us because he is not working for us. Congress, if that isn't treason, I don't know what is. And you want us to swallow this every day? You want us to think that you're believing for us, but your actions speak louder than words. Only Chuck Grassley has brought up articles of impeachment. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul, not one of you sorry sacks of crap have had the balls to step up to the plate to second it, and he'd be gone tomorrow. Listen, I would rather see what Kamala Harris does any day of the week than continue murdering people daily in Palestine. I would rather see what Kamala Harris does than leave $80 to $85 billion on the floor to give to the Taliban. You couldn't do stupider stuff than what Jackwagon Joe is doing, United States of America. We can't let this continue. I'm asking you to get off the couch, support your sheriff, support your county clerks, and definitely work with your outlaw bikers. It is up to us to protect our country, and it is God and country, and that time is now. I'm tired of this Johnson guy. He wants us to go into a war, and that's how he proves Speaker of the House. All you prove to me is that you're an idiot. You're not a constitutional lawyer, or you'd be able to read the beginning of the amendments that says that you're not allowed to vote on a religious war, you idiot. So you're not impressing anybody, and you're a disgrace to the Republicans and the Democrats. And just like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says, your butt should be impeached. You suck just as bad as the last guy. Two people would work in there for me, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan, and that's about it. Other than that, it's a uniparty, and this guy here looks like a stupid child. You've done nothing, and now you're going to fund, and we're going to fund you for a broke government that's blowing up the world, and then you're going to come to us next year or in 6 more months saying, we failed in all of our promises. Can we have some more money? And the answer, America, is no. They're just going to send it. He's sending this money right now overseas, okay, to start a war. How does the rest of the world feel about this? Well, guess what, Germany? You're going to the war. Your farmers know it. They don't want to participate. You're sending 40 to 50,000 soldiers in. Great Britain's sending 20 to 30,000 in. There's an additional 90,000 coming in today. World War III is here. Again, I told you how Turkey just bombed Syria. I just told you yesterday Russia moved ships into the Red Sea. Today, right now, they're probably using them. Don't think for a second that this will not hit us here at home. We've never been so weak as we are with Jackwagon Joe. God bless each one of you, and please pray that we get Trump in office as soon as possible. And I'd like to see him with RFK, and I'd like to see them both exonerate Snowden and Assange so that we can prove to the world that we're not terrorist criminals. God bless you, and amen.